so mad. I tried to put on some prayer songs today. I'm so mad. Anywho, hey, welcome to the Chaotic Creative. I'm your host, Rachel D. I'm glad that you clicked, and today we're going to learn about our big three. Our big three are a part of our, that was a little bit too quick to rush in. Hold on. Okay, so they really call it a big six, but it's referring to our interpersonal planets, which I'm actually going to get into with the next video. But these planets actually play a part in our everyday lives. And if this camera could stop moving, that would be awesome. That's better. Yeah, with that, we'll be getting to our first big three. That's our sun, our moon, and our ascendant slash rising sign. They are interchangeable terms. Most of us only know about our sun sign, but astrology is, as we know, goes much more further than that. And when you get to your chart and view some of these things, I promise you'll be shocked, and some of it it's face value or things you know about yourself, but then it starts digging into the nitty gritty of it all. And once you start unearthing things by planets, I've never been read, but by planets, all day, every day. So in order to gain access to your birth chart, you're going to need your date of birth, your time of birth, your place of birth, and not just like a guesstimate, but exact if you can, because with the ascendant sign, it changes every 2 to 3 hours depending on what's going on in the celestials and whatnot. And if you don't know what those things are, you can go to a birth chart, or I think they call them rectifiers, and they'll ask like a series of questions of life things depending on age. That's something I would actually like to get into as well. Or if the hospital is still there, you would have to go down to like your local vital records to get the rest of that. And sometimes a lot of people talk about, they go and get it's like the long sheet when it gets all the way down to milliseconds. And on most birth certificates, it's just, the hours and the AM, but just that's what you need. No guesstimates, because it'll only give you, so much once again. If you're a beginner, look at that shit, just pitiful. If you're a beginner, I started off personally with cafe astrology because it was easier to interpret. Well, it gives more written interpretation, and then as I got further, I went into different sides. But cafe astrology is good. AstroSeek, Astro AG, those are two of the, in my opinion, the most legit free ones that are roaming out here. And a lot of people use Astro AG. A lot of professionals use AG as well. Also, it's called Astro Dentist or something of that nature. I'll probably link all those down. There's apps. I don't recommend using CoStar. I have my reasons, but don't recommend that. For iPhone, Astro Future is great. Time Passages, Astro Future and Time Passages. And Android, The Pattern, Astro Matrix. I actually have a few. It don't make no sense at this point. Oh, iPhone Moonly. That is a Vedic astrology app, and it also gives out affirmations, meditation, like a lot of the other ones do, but it gets real good into the Hindu culture. And I'm actually, like I said, I'm starting to lean more towards using my Vedic chart to do things and learn. Starting out with the sun. The sun is a luminary, not a planet. Again, the sun is a luminary, but not a planet. It spends a month in each sign. It rules Leo in our fifth house. It represents our vitality, what powers your creative expression, our conscious thoughts. It can represent our father, husband, or male children. Matter of fact, male children, my eldest is a Leo, and Leo sun, and it's actually a boy. So that actually rang true for me. And it's where we can show up in life as a leader, and where we show heart, and also romance, because those are all Sun, Leo, fifth house. That's their thing. Romance as well. It is exalted in the sign of Aries, which is pretty dope, and it is debilitated or weakened in the sign of Libra. It takes an entire year for it to go around the zodiac wheel. It can represent our ego, especially when we feel like we've been attacked or embarrassed or something of that nature. And with that, I think about how lions are described as prideful and how they have to assert dominance within their pride. And although the sun is seen as like a masculine energy, you're going to see the competition and the rah-rah among the female lions. Lionesses, I believe. I don't know. It can also, I said children already, it can also rule how romantic you come off to be, or if, you're a person who fumbles around in affairs. But that's not all sun. Sun is also identity, and depending on what house it lands in, it can show you what makes you flex, what makes you feel like Billy badass, or where you exert confidence the most. So say sun in first house. The first house is ruled by Mars, but that's also something to do with fire and Aries as well. But sun in first house would show someone who is confident in first house dealings, like athletics, government. Sun also rules government as well, but athletic strength, war, things of that nature, things of physicality, the sun would show there the most. Or let's say, for instance, something not so clean. Maybe a person's sun is in their 12th house. This person could suffer from depression because the 12th house is the last house in the zodiac, and things get so dark. So imagine, 1 to 12, 1 being the brightest and 12 being the darkest, the sun being there. It doesn't get to shine like it wants to. It's probably a very psychic sun, but ain't no sunshine when she's there. It's the opposite of Bill Withers. My next one is number 2, our moon. The moon spends about 2 to 2.5 days in each sign. So it takes the moon roughly a month to go around the zodiac wheel. The moon goes around the wheel 12 times a year, every year. Your moon represents the way that you process emotions and feelings, who we are in private, our closest loved ones, mental health, reflection, fertility, how we nurture ourselves. And traditionally, the moon represents Cancer, and it rules Cancer in the fourth house. I'm reading off my notes, y'all. I'm in this. Yeah, if it wasn't evident enough, moon also represents the mothers or relationships with the mother and also our inner child. Now, depending on what sign and placement she's in, she can either have a strong, heightened intuition, since she can represent underlying and hold on subconscious thought, especially if she's placed in a water sign, unless Scorpio. The moon is in its fall in Scorpio, debilitated as well. And the moon is at its highest point or exalted in the sign of Taurus. Speaking of exalted and moving and stuff, like, the moon moves the waves in the oceans. And not only the oceans, but our bodies are 60% water. So the moon definitely has an effect on how we act on a day by day to a half day basis, depending on where it is and what your moon sign is. Like, for instance, you could be a person that's supercharged on full moons or depleted of energy on full moons, but then that moon comes in your specific sign. And this is a day where, I read this somewhere, days or nights where there's a full moon in your sign, or any time, just depending on the energies that the moon is in your sign. That is a day to ask for favor. I actually did this experiment with my son the other day and me, and it actually worked in both of our favors. So that's a little tidbit I want to let y'all know about. But yeah, depending on the sign and season it's in, a lot of people like to stay at home because moon also rules the fourth house. Fourth house is known as our home or our place of origin, and more people coincidentally like to stay home because it's the closest entity to Earth. Or there's a lot of, it's chaotic shit going on full moons most of the night. But if you're in a community like me, it's a lot of action going on as well, and just can't be too careful. Anywho, the moon goes through a few phases. It goes through 8 phases. If you're a fan of Disney, you've definitely heard Mysterious as the dark side of the moon. And that's in reference to, our new moon. So, hold on, what did I write? Sometimes I be stuck in my own shit, y'all. Hold on. Relates to the not so aware parts of our psyche, especially when she's going through what we call lunar phases. Half of her surface is always illuminated by the sun, and depending on where she's orbiting, we'll only see the brighter side of her. And that's a lesson on reflection, for real, for real. The first is the new moon, which is when the moon is at 0 and 45 degrees. Crescent, when the moon is 75 to 90 degrees. Full quarter moon, when the moon is at 90 and 135 degrees, and that's basically like past behind you. There is the gibbous moon, that is 135 to 180 degrees, and this is right before we move on to the waning phases of the moon. And those include the full moon, which we all know and run in love and fear at the same time. which is at 180 to 225 degrees, and Ilium brings light to the dark. When the moon is full on one part of the world, it is new on the other part of the world. So let's say I think we got new moons, we got eclipses, we got retrogrades and directs, and Jesus, that's so much. We'll be straight though. We have the moon at its decimating phase, which is at 225 to 270 degrees. Last quarter moon, 270 to 315. And then we have the balsamic moon ending at 315 to 360 degrees. And at this point, the moon is starting right back up and going into its new phase. I'm going to have to take a picture of my little moon phase thing. It's not the whole phase, but I think it gives a pretty good description on things, you know. So, finally, we are at our ascended and rising sign part of our big three. The ascended is the first house of a person, place, thing, or event in the natal chart. It's the sign that was on the eastern horizon when you were born. It changes every 2.5 to 3 hours, and the zodiac, which again, why it's important to know approximate time. And I know unfortunately everybody can't do that, but there are ways you can, and I feel you can teach yourself possibly. And because without the time, you won't get your ascended, and I don't think you'll get specific house placements. You'll just get close enough planetary placements. Okay, so it represents the energy and the outward persona, or how we appear to the public and other people, like down to your body type and mannerisms. Peep this. Okay, so on the tropical side, I'm a Cancer rising. Okay. On the Vedic side, I am a Gemini ascendant. And this is how they differ. They're both true. They both make sense and cooperate and collaborate. So I have more of the Cancer rising physical attributes. I have the round face, the bulging eyes, these things. And I look like a mother. I feel like I look like a mother. I've looked like a mother my whole life. It's funny. I don't like that though. But I've always been mother. But these two, yeah, because Cancer rules the chest. But yeah, more physical attributes versus in Vedic, I show more Gemini mannerisms, how I keep jumping from subject to subject down to how I collect information. And sometimes I just collect and don't spirit. And that's actually, another reason why we got the channel, because I do so much collecting and I feel like I'm supposed to be sharing it, because it kind of causes a mental block. I can be very sociable and I can be very withdrawn, and that goes to Cancer part. But they both make sense, and your ascendant is gonna be the link to tell you what planet is your chart ruler as well, planet or luminary that influences how you move as a whole. So in my case, for the tropical, my chart ruler would be the moon. And then I would go to where my moon is in my chart and find where it's located. And with me, my moon is in my third house of Leo. So Leo moon would be my chart ruler. And with Gemini, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in my 10th house of Pisces in Vedic. So my chart ruler over there would be my Pisces Mercury. And that's those two influence. And with that, your rising sign sets the natal chart and the tone into 12 sections. You know what? Let's do these examples. So we're going to look to the eastern horizon to find our ascendant sign. And in this chart specifically, it is in Libra. And that sets the tone for the rest of the chart. It starts with Libra, ends at Virgo. Now we go and look for the planetary ruler of Libra, which would be Venus, but we wouldn't have to look very far because it's right there in the first house along with some other things. So this person's chart ruler is their Venus Libra. And in this case, the energies in this first house are supercharged because one, they're the stellium and the planetary ruler is there. So they're probably very aesthetically beautiful, well-spoken, and fights for love. Okay, so Leo is on the eastern horizon and starts the tone of the chart. Starts with Leo, ends at Cancer. So what we're going to do is look for the ruler of Leo, which is in the 8th house of Pisces. And now you'll see that Pisces sun is their chart ruler. This person likely has warm undertones or looks good in warm colors like golds and yellows. It's actually given smooth operator with the Mars and some kinky things with the Saturn in the 8th house. And I just threw a random time and date in there, and I think I might have found Mr. Tall, Dark, and Handsome. It's definitely given masculine or strong, silent type. And 8th house dealings will definitely be a central theme in their life. So that wraps up my video on the big three. Next, we'll be discovering the rest of our interpersonal planets / luminaries. The luminaries I already talked about, but you know how it goes. And note again, the sun and moon are not planets, but they are included in our IPs. If you learned anything today, something, or you just enjoyed the vibe of the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe with everybody you know. Until next time, I love you, God loves you, and I hope you love you too. Let's be friends and follow each other on all our platforms, and I'll see you in the next video.